Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Skyrim. In this video, I'm going to be showing you all of the Easter eggs in Skyrim's DLC, Dragonborn. Now, for the first Easter egg, we're going to go back to Morrowind's Blood Moon expansion, and we're going to visit the Gloomy Cave. Now, inside this cave, there are 3 witches. They will only be there, though, if you're up to a certain point in a certain quest, which I was not, therefore they're not here. But these 3 witches go by the names of Atine of Glen Moril Weird, Isabel of Glen Moril Weird, and Felice of Glen Moril Weird. All 3 of which are sisters. They all came to Solstheim to cure people of werewolfism or lycanthropy. So now we're going to go to Solstheim in the Dragonborn expansion in Skyrim, and we are at the Altar of Thrond. Now we want to go inside the Altar of Thrond. It is quite a short dungeon, but once inside we will be warmly greeted by 3 hag ravens. And if you can stand the smell, you can get close enough to them to see that they are actually named hag ravens. And as we can see, we have Felice, Atine, and Isabel. So those 3 very helpful witches that we found on Solstheim curing people of lycanthropy have now actually become hag ravens 200 years later. I don't know if I'm upset or impressed. So there you go, to start off we've got a little tasty bit of hag raven action. Now for this next Easter egg we have another Morrowind reference. You can randomly encounter this wizard who does this. Screen turns red and he flies into the sky, and shortly after, what goes up must come down. His Achilles tendons shoot through his shoulder blades. And this is of course a reference to the Tariel encounter in Morrowind, and he manages to turn 2 shins into 40,000 toothpicks. And for the next one, well, we have Gladys Lovoo, the very man in question. He is a priest, and he can be found at the temple in Raven Rock. Now I waited until he went to bed to make sure which room he lived in. Once inside you could find this is Gladys Lovoo's room because he's asleep in his bed. If you come over to the chest in his room, there's a boy's yellow tunic. What would a priest be doing with boy's clothes in his room? I cannot figure out what this is referencing. For the next one, we want to go to the North Shore Landing. This is at the very tip of Solstheim, on the northern tip. Once there, you'll find that it is abandoned by humanoids anyway, and has been repopulated with mudcrabs. Now, there's 4 or 5 mudcrabs here, but one of which has a unique name, Old Salty. So what we're gonna do, get some crab sticks for dinner, take out Old Salty. Poor little bastard. Let's flip the little bugger over. Here he is, Old Salty. Now there are theories that this is, again, a reference to Morrowind. As you probably know, mudcrabs normally drop just mudcrab chitin and mudcrab legs. But if we take a look on Old Salty, he has a garnet, large sum of gold for a mudcrab, the normal mudcrab loot, a tankard and some shoes. Now I'm particularly interested in the gold and the tankard. What is the significance of gold and a tankard? Now again, this is a speculated Easter egg and I'm going to show you the theory. So in Morrowind there was a funny little fellow, which was just a mud crab, but if you walked up to it and clicked on it, you could talk to the mud crab. This guy is known as the mud crab merchant. In the vanilla game, he was the vendor with the highest amount of gold. Now if we click on barter with the mud crab merchant, he only sells alcoholic beverages. What can you drink an alcoholic beverage out of? I don't know, a tankard? And as you can see, he has 10,000 gold. Are there any other crabs in the Elder Scrolls that carry gold? Alcoholic beverages, tankard, mud crab with gold, mud crab with gold. I am sure, like mine, that your suspicions are rising. Is Old Salty the mud crab merchant 200 years later? He's carrying the gold and a tankard. It's not an Easter egg that is concreted in, but I certainly do like to believe that this is, if not the mudcrab merchant himself 200 years later, at least it is a reference to the mudcrab merchant for Morrowind. Now for the next one we have the Dwemer Airship. And here it is. This is what it looked like in Morrowind when it had freshly crashed. The Dwemer Airship. It was a ship that had been converted with Dwemer machinery to fly, and it did work, but apparently not that well. 200 years later in Skyrim, let's head to Mosring Pass. Here you'll find a Reichling camp, but if you look closer, there is what looks like a ship with some Dwemer pipes coming out of it. I'll give you one guess what this is. That's right, a strange vessel. No, of course. This is the Dwemer Airship that crashed in Morrowind, and like I said, 200 years later, here it is in Skyrim. So there's a nice little nod, once again, back to Morrowind. Now for the next one, we have a Siltstrider Easter egg. I suppose it's not the most secret Easter egg ever, but in Morrowind, Siltstriders were basically the carriage system. There was no fast travel mechanism, you could only use ships, the mage skill to teleport, or these Siltstriders to go between cities. And in Skyrim, northwest of Tel Mithrin, we have one very dusty area, but more importantly, we have Old Dusty, which is one of the last surviving Siltstriders. Now you cannot use or hire Dusty to travel anywhere, but here she is, and I love that they added that very atmospheric groaning noise that the Silt Striders made in Morrowind. And if you talk to Revis Savani, he will explain what a Silt Strider is, how back on Morrowind they were used as transport, so on and so forth. So once again, there's a nice little nod to, you won't believe it, Morrowind. And now that we're onto the subject of Christmas, we want to head into the cave of Fossel. This is a very long cave, so I'm going to skip to the part that is appropriate for this video. As we approach this opening here to the final room, we will see something quite strange. You will find about 7 or 8 Reikling praying to something. As you can see, it looks like there's a carriage over there, praying to a carriage. Huh, thank God, I thought I was the only one. So now I'm going to eradicate the weak so we can take a closer look. So once they're dead, we can head up the ramp here and head up to the carriage. As we can see, it is a carriage, and there's something attached to the front, looks like a horse. Very interesting, but if we look closely, there are twigs stuck in its head for antlers. So effectively, what we have is a deer pulling a sled. And there we have some charcoal, which, of course, is in the place of deer poo, or in Latin, Dietius Shiticus. So that's pretty cool. I like that someone actually put a fair bit of effort into making this reindeer here. And I suppose the Reiklings could be considered elves, little Santa's helpers. But the Easter egg does not end there. While I was looking around the cave, if you come over to where the boss loot chest is at the end, we'll find some jewels, gold, sacks of gold, stuff like that. There's also some clothes though, some black boots just like Santa wears. That fine clothes there is the closest in color to Santa's clothes that you can find in Skyrim. And if we have a look on the barrel here, there is a suspicious fine hat. Yes, you can find it in Skyrim normally, but isn't it strange that the red fine hat with the white woolen brim is, found in the same place as a Santa Claus Easter egg? Suspicious? I think so. So we have the reindeer, we have the Reikling, which are little elves, and then we have a pair of Santa Claus clothes. Does the Easter egg end there? No! Yes, that's right, there's 4 things that point towards this being a Santa Claus Easter egg. Even I was quite chuffed with myself when I noticed this one. On the way out of the cave, you will jump down this ledge, and once down you will see a little trough with some mushrooms. Flyer Monitor. Now, Flyer Monitor has a significance and an influence so large on Christmas and Santa Claus, I'm sure most of you are unaware of. The Flyer Monitor, or otherwise known as Amanita muscaria, is a mushroom that Germanic shamans used to eat. When they were tripping balls on these mushrooms, they would see deities, gods, and from this was in fact born Santa Claus. In celebration of the Flyer Monitor and Santa Claus, the Germanic shamans would dress up in red and white clothing, and thus was born Santa Claus wearing red and white clothes. It is considered common knowledge that Coca-Cola made Santa Claus red and white. This isn't true, they certainly did popularize the idea, but they didn't come up with it. These Germanic shamans did. Now, reindeer, while grazing for grass and other shrubs, they would eat these Flyer Monitor. They would also have pupils the size of the moon. And while they were in the 8th dimension, they would prance around because they were off their nut. Thus was born prancing reindeers, flying reindeers, the flying reindeer named Prancer. Now, the Germanic shamans would harvest these mushrooms, they would hang them on trees and over fires to dry out. Thus was born hanging a sock over your fireplace at Christmas time. And from this was also born hanging baubles on Christmas trees that originated from the Germanic shamans hanging these mushrooms on trees to dry out. Even to this very day, on a lot of Christmas cards, you'll often see a Flyer Monitor on there somewhere. So a super subtle Easter egg and reference there. But although it's super subtle, it does hold so much meaning towards the Santa Claus Easter egg. Suspicious? I think so. Coincidence? I think not. A very well-read developer has placed these here. So now that I've taken off my college lecturing glasses, let's move on to the next Easter egg, shall we? For the next Easter egg, we have the giant Nirnroots. And as you can see, we are on an island north of the cave Fossel. Now once here, you will find some normal Nirnroots. You will find a boat and a dead alchemist, and you'll be greeted by a trio of Spriggans, which of course you kill because you love nature. And you will find, I think it's a total of 4 of these giant Nirnroots. And as you can see, against my character, the Nirnroot is actually taller than my character, so these are in fact giant Nirnroots. And for the next Easter egg, we want to go to Ben Kongereik. Here, we will find a Nordic ruin that has been overrun by Reikling. It's a fairly long dungeon, but I'll skip straight to the part where we enter the Great Hall. So once you walk through the Ben Kongereik Great Hall doors, directly to your right, you will find a hut. A hut that is far away and isolated from all of the other Reikling huts. And as you can see, there's a pile of books. Perhaps this is a savant Reikling who's studying. But once we approach, we can see that there's a total of 9 copies of both the Lusty Argonian Maid Part 1 and the Lusty Argonian Maid Part 2, totaling in 18 books. And underneath it all, there is a spell tome of telekinesis. For those that are unaware, the Lusty Argonian Maid is basically a pornographic novel within the Elder Scrolls. I can see you all scrambling right now to log in to come and find this. So it's a little bit suspicious that there's a hut all by itself, there's a giant stack of pornographic books, and there's also 2 linen wraps. I suppose that is the closest thing to a tissue in Skyrim. Now between the linen wraps and the lusty Argonian maid, I really don't know what this Reichling has been using his telekinesis spell for. Do I want to know? No. Well, I do, but I don't. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to read a little bit of the lusty Argonian maid for you. Lifts her tail. My goodness, that's quite a loaf, but how ever shall it fit in my oven? This loaf isn't ready for baking, my sweet. It has yet to rise. If only we could If only we could hurry that along. How would I accomplish such a task? Oh, my foolish little Argonian maid. You must use your hands. You wish me to knead the loaf? Of course. But what if the mistress catches me? Your loaf was meant... God. So it's pretty dodgy stuff. A dodgy book for a very dodgy little Reichling. Now on to the next Easter egg. We are at Glacial Cave. This is actually the last Easter egg in this video, but it's a pretty epic one. So we want to go inside Glacial Cave. It is a very short cave, but I'm going to skip to the end anyway because watching me kill Reichlings is boring. And once we've cleared the cave, as we approach the very end of the cave, we will see this strange skull stuck into the wall. And as we can see, it's Karstag's skull. Now again, because I played Morrowind's Blood Moon expansion, I know exactly who Karstag is. He's this fellow right here. So we want to take the skull and then we want to head to Castle Karstag Caverns, which is just west of Glacial Cave. Now once inside, it's a very long dungeon, but I'll skip right to the end. Once at the end, you want to run out into Castle Karstag Courtyard. Once you're outside and once you have neutralized the enemies, we want to walk over to this throne here that has a rather large skeleton on it. And we can activate Karstag's throne. When we do so, it will place the skull on the throne and summon Karstag. Now this fight is very rough. Karstag is incredibly powerful. This is on Legendary, so it's rougher than it could be. Be warned, this fight is probably the hardest in the game. So once you kill the demigod Karstag, you will gain the power, summon Karstag. Now, this can only be used 3 times in the entire game. You can use it at any point of your choosing, but it only has 3 charges. If we go to powers, you can see we now have summoned Karstag. Summons Karstag to fight for 120 seconds. You may only use this ability 3 times, and only while outdoors. I'm not going to show you what it looks like when you summon him. Just kidding. Okay, this bear looks bloody tough. We better use one of Karstag's 3 charges to defeat this mighty beast. And, took out the bear before Karstag even rocked up. But holy Mongolia, look at the sheer power coming out of that guy. He's a big bastard and he's one epic way to end this video. If you guys are still hungering for more Elder Scrolls content, or want some ideas for some cool class builds, be sure to check out my good mates Michael and Scott over at Fudge Muppet. You can click the link on screen, or the link to their channel will also be in the description. Be sure to check them out, you'll be doing yourself a favor. Fudge Muppet. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment. If you have any theories or questions about these Easter eggs. If you have any video ideas, be sure to tell me those as well. Don't forget to share this video amongst your family and friends. And as always, if you did enjoy this video and you would like to see videos similar to this one, please subscribe. If you're interested in other Skyrim Easter eggs, be sure to click the links on screen. As you can see on screen, I have other Skyrim Easter eggs videos. If you're interested in Easter eggs, be sure to check those videos out. Also, our channel now has a Facebook page and a Twitter account. So if it would please you, be my guest and like the Facebook page and follow us on Twitter so you can be updated with the latest Camelworks info. The annotations unfortunately will not support these links, so the links can be found solely in the description. Once again, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Click the link!